And Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. He said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Going a little further, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will." Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour?" he asked Peter. "Watch and pray, so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." He went away a second time and prayed, "My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done." When he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed the 3rd time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come, and the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer."
That beautiful garden, those scented flowers softly resting their heads in the balm of the evening, their tender fragrance gently rising, mingling with the incense of a bright moon. That band of brothers, those hungry ears so wanting enlightenment, one more golden enrichment, their sluggish humanity quietly luring them, infusing their better thoughts with the brief sweetness of sleep. That unadorned God-man, those pungent blood tears warmly wending their way down the cheeks of the Maker, their bitter perfume slowly falling, mixing with the dirt of the night-moist earth. That kneeling true victor, those exhaled pleas in that moment of anguish heard by the Father, their spasming challenge acknowledged, entwined with the salve of submission. That obedient master, those remarkable answers absorbed by his flesh, surrendered to truth, their unbridled reality born, blended passion and power on the way to the tree.
Tragically, the symptoms of coronavirus have felt for some like a condemnation to death. Breathlessness, pneumonia, the need for a ventilator have menaced something serious and life-threatening. As Jesus is condemned to die, though innocent of any crime or charges, we too may feel the injustice of the death of innocent loved ones, of family and friends. It feels harsh, brutal, and inexplicable. We notice the detail of the gospel that they spat in Jesus' face. We've seen spitting has become a weapon during this pandemic. The police, NHS workers have found themselves spat at as a sign of anger or frustration, maybe with the intent to spread the virus. Jesus knows exactly what it is like to be spat at, exactly what it is like to be condemned to die. He walks with us. We pause for a moment of quiet personal prayer and reflection. I, Jesus, is Condemned to Death by Malcolm Guite. The very air that Pilate breathes, the voice with which he speaks in judgment, all his powers of perception and discrimination, choice, decision, all his years, his days and hours, his consciousness of self, his every sense are given by this prisoner, freely given. The man who stands there making no defense is God. His hands are tied, his heart is open, and he bears Pilate's heart in his and feels that crushing weight of wasted life. He lifts it up in silent love. He lifts and heals. He gives himself again with all his gifts into our hands. As Pilate turns away, a door swings open. This is Judgment Day. We spend a further moment in quiet reflection. Jesus picks up his cross. It would have been a very heavy piece of wood, enough to support a man some feet from the ground. He has already been beaten and had a crown of thorns pressed on his head. What crosses are we having to carry in these days? The cross of isolation and absence, the cross of living with people who are hard to live with. I wonder what crosses others have been carrying. People have found themselves living in cramped flats with no garden. Those who are refugees or homeless. those who have elderly relatives they cannot visit, those who are anxious about money or jobs. Consider for a moment the particular cross that you are carrying in this pandemic. Jesus knows what it is like to carry your cross. A moment of quiet. It is not surprising that Jesus falls over. The cross is heavy, he is weakened by loss of blood, and the midday heat in Jerusalem is fierce. The ground is uneven, and the crowds press around. It will not be surprising if we also fall over in these days. A moment perhaps when we've snapped at someone we're sharing a house with, a moment when we lose patience in a supermarket queue, a moment where we're reduced to tears by the sheer helplessness of what we feel in the face of this pandemic, or of death, or of confinement. In our metaphorical prone state, we can look to our side and see that Jesus is there with us, on the floor, weighed down. Together with Jesus, we find extra strength to get up and carry on. A moment of quiet. The tears of the women stream down their faces. They are bereft, consumed by the sadness of aching hearts, by the loss of someone so dear. Jesus' response seems very odd. Don't weep for me, but for yourselves and for your children. By the time of Luke's Gospel, as it was set down in writing, the listeners would know that the Jewish temple at the heart of Jerusalem had been destroyed in 70 AD, with many children killed and much of the city in ruins. Jesus prophesies this, and he shows us that even as he journeys to Calvary, his thoughts are not about himself, but others. As we weep in these days of pandemic, we can also look beyond our grief and suffering, beyond our own broken hearts, and weep for those who are alone. Weep for those in countries with few hospitals and scarce medical supplies, those who have no prospect of being vaccinated. We weep for those who have no more tears to cry. Weep, knowing that even in his moments of greatest agony, Jesus is thinking about us, consoling us, grieving with us. A moment for quiet prayer.
Jesus weeps. Jesus comes near, and he beholds the city, and looks on us with tears in his eyes, and wells of mercy, streams of love and pity flow from the fountain whence all things arise. He loved us into life, and longs to gather and meet with his beloved face to face. How often has he called, a careful mother, and wept for our refusals of his grace, wept for a world that, weary with its weeping, benumbed and stumbling, turns the other way. Fatigued compassion is already sleeping, whilst her worst nightmares stalk the light of day. But we might waken yet, and face those fears, if we could see ourselves through Jesus' tears.
Down on your hands and knees, look on your handiwork and build a house so you may dwell in me, so you may dwell in me. The work was done with nothing but wood and nails in your scar-born hands. Oh, show me how to work and praise, trusting that I am your instrument. Oh, loving laborer, with the sweat upon your face, oh, build
When Jesus dies on the cross, he is naked. It is the final humiliation, all dignity stripped away as his clothes are stripped away, becoming an object for soldiers to bet on with the throw of the dice. Christ comes into the world naked on a stable floor. He dies naked on a wooden cross. What sort of king is this? What sort of God is this? Jesus, fully God and fully human, enters our darkest moments, is present at times when we are humiliated, when we are robbed of dignity. Coronavirus has robbed us of human contact, of work, of the chance to play freely. It stripped us back to the barest of essentials. What do we find in these moments that look so bleak? We discover and rediscover how much it matters to love and to be loved. On the cross, Jesus may be bereft of clothes. He may be stripped and humiliated, but he is never robbed of the greatest garment of all, the essence of who he is, pure love.
Is it better to have not been born than to know this vacant day when hope has died and life is silent? Is it better to have not been born than to walk in a world without love, than to remain in a night that has no dawn? Is it better to have not been born than to be forsaken by God, abandoned to evil, left to be dust?
See, as they strip the robes from off his back and spread his arms and nail them to the cross, the dark nails pierce him, and the sky turns black, and love is firmly fastened onto loss. But here, a pure change happens. On this tree, loss becomes gain. Death opens into birth. Here, wounding heals, and fastening makes free. Earth breathes in heaven, heaven roots in earth, and here we see the length, the breadth, the height, where love and hatred meet, and love stays true. Where sin meets grace, and darkness turns to light, we see what love can bear, and be, and do. And here, our Saviour calls us to his side. His love is free. His arms are open wide.
This crown of thorns upon your head, all the power of the universe in humble sacrifice, your earthly form upon this holy cross, the least measure of your love, for me. And Here am I in my fallen world. It's the only world I know. Knowing who I am, you bring heaven's mercy to me. This crown of thorns that I have placed upon your head, all the power that creates the universe, gentle beneath my hand. Your broken form that I have placed upon this cross, submitting to this earthly pain out of love for me. Here am I in my fallen world, the only world I know, and knowing who I am, even knowing who I am, especially knowing who I am, you bring heaven's mercy to me.
different. There's nothing yet has really sunk in. Looks like it always did. This flesh and bone is just the way that you were tied in. Now there's no one home. I grieve for you. You It's so hard to move on. Still loving what's gone. They say life carries on.
A naked death. Yours was a naked death, Jesus. Not for you the fine linen of a rich bed, surrounded by wealth accumulated over a comfortable lifetime. Not for you a well-prepared service of farewell, with time for proper grieving and departures. Not for you a carefully chosen shroud or a tenderly nurtured grave. When you kept your rendezvous with death, all was stripped away, except your determined love and the life that lay dormant for a moment, waiting for the morning, when your naked glory would break free again. Amen.
The solemn stripping past, incense extinguished, music stilled. The Lord is entombed on a barren altar, and we, the gathered remnant, watch. This arid, memorial night, I remember wilderness where Satan, that twisted elf, tempted Jesus to make bread from stone. At table this desert night, with beloved and betrayer, he trumped the tempter and made bread God, before whom we kneel immersed in adoration, plunged deep in dense, severe, and tender joy. Though the darkness deepens, somewhere God remains. Like Mary of Magdala, in the garden of crucifixion, we wait opposite his tomb, keeping vigil, listening for the shepherd's voice.
One, two, three, four. I am overcome by rivers run dry, a wasteland. Would you speak just one word? I know that you could wake up now. Was it even true? Making all things new. Whatever to renew, hope only to tear it down again, back to when I knew how God is dead now. Who killed him? Was it even true? Making all things new. Was it even true? Making all things new. Saturday, demons dancing on the grave. Saturday, Saturday, demons dancing on the grave. Saturday, was it even true? Making all things new. Was it even true?
Holy Saturday. It was raw and cold, no hint of resurrection. Driving to friends on a winter-scarred road under lowering pines, I saw a great patch, more than I'd ever seen before, of snowdrops. Samuel Arnott's, spring's first flowers. Take heart, they said. He will come.